The ancient scanner hummed with power older than most civilizations. Alex watched the line of cadets move forward, each one stepping into the glowing circle with nervous excitement. The device had been working perfectly for 3,000 years, categorizing every being who entered the Galactic Naval Academy. Today would be no different, or so everyone thought. A tall Rigelian with blue-scaled skin stepped forward first. The scanner's light washed over him, and holographic words appeared above his head in golden letters. Guardian of the Deep Currents. The instructors nodded approvingly as they made notes on their data tablets. Deep Currents Guardians were excellent for underwater missions and resource management. Next came a small, furry creature from the Arcturus system. Her 6 legs trembled as she entered the scanner. The light pulsed twice before displaying Keeper of Silent Wisdom, perfect for intelligence and research roles. The instructors smiled as they recorded the information. One by one, the cadets received their designations. Warrior of Distant Stars, Healer of Broken Worlds, Singer of Solar Winds. Each title matched what the Academy expected from these species. The Rigelians always got water-related roles. The Arcturians were natural scholars. The crystal beings from Proxima became energy specialists. Alex shifted weight from foot to foot, watching the smooth process. Growing up on Titan Station, Alex had dreamed of joining the Academy since childhood. The scanner would reveal the perfect career path just like it did for everyone else. Maybe explorer of new worlds or protector of trade routes. Something normal and useful. The line grew shorter. A massive creature with rock-like skin stepped into the scanner. The light turned orange as it processed his unique biology. Builder of mountain strongholds appeared above him. He grinned, showing stone teeth, and walked toward the Builder Division instructors. Next, called Instructor Davis, the only human on the Academy staff. She had served for 20 years and never seen the scanner make an error. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed. She took pride in the Academy's efficiency. Alex stepped into the scanner's circle. The floor felt warm through the standard-issue boots. The walls of the chamber were lined with curious faces. Aliens and a few humans watching the process. Some whispered among themselves in languages Alex didn't recognize. The scanner's hum changed pitch. Instead of the quick pulse that had processed everyone else, it began a slow, deep vibration. The light around Alex shifted from white to blue, then to a strange color that didn't have a name. The other cadets stopped talking and stared. Instructor Davis frowned and checked her tablet. Sometimes it takes longer for humans, she said, but her voice carried uncertainty. In her 20 years, she had processed hundreds of humans. They usually took the same few seconds as everyone else. The light around Alex grew brighter. The scanner's hum became louder, filling the chamber with sound that made everyone's bones vibrate. Several cadets stepped back, their faces showing worry. This wasn't normal. This had never happened before. The holographic display above Alex's head flickered. Letters tried to form but kept breaking apart and reforming. The scanner made clicking sounds like an old computer struggling with too much data. Sparks flew from panels around the room. "What's happening?" asked the Rigelian cadet, his blue scales rippling with nervous energy. "I don't know," Davis replied, her professional calm cracking. She had never seen the scanner struggle before. It was supposed to be perfect, infallible, a gift from an ancient civilization that knew things the current galaxy had forgotten. The display stabilized for a moment. Letters began forming clearly, WARDEN, then more letters, OF. The scanner's hum reached a fever pitch that made windows rattle, then silence. The scanner went completely quiet. The lights dimmed to nothing. Alex stood in darkness while everyone held their breath. Emergency power kicked in, bathing the room in red light that made everything look like a crime scene. The scanner's main display burst to life one final time. Words appeared in letters 3 feet tall, glowing with inner fire. Warden of the Flame Beyond Law. Alex stared up at the title floating overhead. What does that mean? The words came out as a whisper, but in the dead silence everyone heard them. No one answered. The instructors stared at their tablets like the devices might provide an explanation. The alien cadets backed away from Alex as if the human had become dangerous. Some looked frightened. Others seemed curious but kept their distance. Instructor Davis tapped her tablet frantically, calling up every database the Academy had access to. Records from 1,000 worlds, histories going back millions of years, and files on every known profession and calling. Nothing mentioned Warden of the Flame Beyond Law. Nothing even came close. Has anyone seen this title before? Davis asked the room. Heads shook all around. Even the ancient crystal being from Proxima, whose people had records stretching back eons, looked confused. The scanner powered down completely. Maintenance crews rushed in to check the systems, but their instruments showed everything working perfectly. The device had simply delivered a result no one understood. What am I supposed to do now? Alex asked. The normal process was simple. Get your title, meet with the appropriate division instructors, choose your specialty training. But there was no division for Wardens of the Flame Beyond Law. There were no instructors who knew what it meant. Davis made a decision. Report to Academic Research Division tomorrow morning. We need to figure out what this means before we can assign you anywhere. She looked at the still glowing words above Alex's head, which hadn't faded like everyone else's titles. Until then, you're restricted to cadet quarters. The other cadets filed out, whispering among themselves. Some kept looking back at Alex with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. The human stood alone in the scanner chamber, watching the maintenance crews work on a device that had given an impossible answer. That night in the cadet dormitory, Alex lay awake staring at the ceiling. Through the thin walls came the sounds of other new cadets talking excitedly about their assignments. The Rigelian was describing underwater cities he would help protect, the crystal being hummed frequencies that would power entire star systems. But Alex had no idea what a Warden of the Flame Beyond Law was supposed to do. The title felt heavy, like carrying a burden without knowing what it weighed. Sleep came slowly, filled with dreams of fire that burned cold and shadows that moved without light. In the Academy's deepest archives, automated systems that hadn't activated in millennia suddenly began to hum. Ancient files, sealed behind security protocols older than most civilizations, started to unlock themselves. Something was waking up in the depths of forgotten knowledge, responding to words that hadn't been spoken in the galaxy for 3 million years. The scanner had done more than identify a cadet's role. It had announced the return of something that powerful forces had worked very hard to keep hidden. And Alex, sleeping fitfully in the standard-issue bunk, had no idea that their entire life had just changed forever. Deep beneath the Academy's main buildings, archive keeper Nora felt the vibrations first. She had spent 30 years in the restricted sections, cataloging knowledge that most people weren't allowed to see. The trembling started in her feet and worked its way up through the stone floors of the ancient facility. Computer, run diagnostics on basement levels 7 through 12, she said to the air. The Academy's AI responded immediately with its usual calm tone. All systems functioning normally, Keeper Nora. No anomalies detected, but the vibrations continued. Nora set down her coffee and walked toward the sealed vault sections. These areas contained materials so old that some of the writing systems couldn't be translated by modern computers. The Academy kept them locked away, more like museum pieces than active research materials. The vault door to Section Omega-7 was glowing. Nora stopped walking and stared. In 30 years, she had never seen any of the vault doors do anything except stay firmly closed. This one pulsed with soft blue light, the same color as the scanner when it had processed Alex yesterday. Her communication device buzzed. "Keeper Nora, this is Director Walsh. We need you in the main conference room immediately. Bring everything you can find about ancient titles or designations." 20 minutes later, Nora sat at a round table surrounded by the Academy's senior staff. Director Walsh, a stern woman with silver hair, looked like she hadn't slept. Instructor Davis sat beside her, still wearing the same uniform from yesterday. Various department heads filled the other chairs, all looking confused and worried. "Show her the recording," Walsh said. Davis activated a holographic display that showed Alex standing in the scanner. The moment played again where the impossible title appeared. Warden of the Flame Beyond Law. Everyone watched Nora's face carefully. "I've never seen that designation," Nora said honestly. But something strange happened in the archives this morning. Vault Omega-7 is active for the first time in decades. Walsh leaned forward. "Active how?" "The door is glowing and the internal systems are powering up. I've never seen anything like it." Nora pulled out her tablet and showed readings from the deep archives. "Energy signatures are off the charts down there." The head of xenoarchaeology, An elderly man named Professor Stone cleared his throat. I've been researching all night. Our databases contain no reference to wardens or flames beyond law, but I found something interesting in the oldest files. He activated another display showing fragments of text in languages nobody could read. These are from civilizations that existed before the current galactic community formed. Most of the writing is damaged, but there are recurring symbols that might relate to guardianship or protection. Protection from what? Walsh asked. Unknown. The texts are too fragmented to make sense of them. Stone looked frustrated. It's like trying to read a book when 90% of the pages are missing. Walsh turned to Davis. How is the cadet handling this? Alex seems as confused as the rest of us. No sign of special abilities or knowledge, just a normal human asking normal questions about what comes next. Davis paused. Though some of the other cadets are acting strange around the human. They keep their distance like they're afraid. Nora stood up. We need to access Vault Omega 7. If it's responding to this situation, there might be answers down there. The group followed her through the Academy's underground levels. The corridors grew older as they descended, changing from modern materials to stone blocks that predated human space travel. Emergency lights cast eerie shadows on walls covered with carvings from extinct civilizations. At the vault door, everyone stopped. The blue glow was brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ancient symbols on the door's surface moved and shifted, rearranging themselves into new patterns. I've never seen the symbols do that, Nora whispered. She approached the control panel, which was also glowing. The lock system is completely active. It's like the vault is trying to open itself. Professor Stone studied the moving symbols with excitement. Those patterns? They're not random. It's like the door is trying to tell us something. Walsh made a decision. Open it, we need answers. Nora input her authorization codes. The massive door, which weighed several tons, slid open silently. Cool air flowed out, carrying scents of old paper and something else. Something that reminded everyone of burning metal. Inside the vault, holographic displays had activated themselves. They showed star maps of regions nobody recognized, with certain systems marked by flame symbols. Ancient books floating in preservation fields glowed softly. In the center of the room, a crystal pedestal held a device that looked like a smaller version of the Academy's scanner. How long has all this been here? Davis asked in amazement. Officially, these vaults contain general historical materials, Nora replied, walking deeper into the chamber. But I'm starting to think the Academy was built over something much more important than we knew. Professor Stone approached one of the holographic displays. As he got closer, text appeared in a language that hurt to look at directly. But somehow his mind could understand the meaning. This is incredible, he said, his voice shaking. These aren't historical records. They're instruction manuals. Guides for something called the Order of Wardens. Walsh joined him at the display. What kind of instructions? Combat techniques against... I can't pronounce this word. It translates roughly as things that consume meaning itself. Training methods for wielding something called the flame. And... Stone's face went pale. A warning about what happens when the galaxy forgets about the wardens and the defenses fail. Nora had found another section of the vault. There's more over here. Records of previous wardens going back millions of years. Look at this. She activated a crystal that projected images into the air. They saw beings of different species, all carrying flames that burned without consuming anything. The beings fought creatures made of living darkness that seemed to eat light itself. Battle scenes played out across worlds that looked wrong somehow, as if reality was breaking down around the edges. The last recorded warden was 3 million years ago. Nora read from the crystal's data. After that, the order disbanded and went into hiding. It says here that they would return when the galaxy faced the return of... She struggled with the pronunciation. The consuming dark. Davis felt cold despite the warm vault air. Are you saying this threat is real? That Alex is supposed to fight some ancient enemy? I'm saying the Academy wasn't built to train Space Navy personnel, Stone said quietly. It was built as a monitoring station. The scanner wasn't just identifying careers. It was screening for potential wardens. A new voice joined the conversation, and it was programmed to hide them. Everyone turned to see a figure standing in the vault doorway. It was Alex, but the human looked different somehow. The cadet's eyes reflected light strangely, and shadows seemed to bend around the human's form. How did you get down here? Walsh demanded. This area is restricted. I followed the dreams, Alex said simply. Ever since yesterday, I've been seeing flashes of this place. Images of battles and flames and something hungry moving between the stars. The human stepped into the vault and several of the crystal displays brightened. I think I'm supposed to be here. As Alex moved deeper into the chamber, more systems activated. The flame symbols on the star maps began pulsing in rhythm with the human's heartbeat. The instruction manuals reorganized themselves, presenting information in an order that somehow made sense. This is impossible, Walsh said. But she was staring at proof that impossible things were happening every few minutes now. Alex approached the small scanner on the crystal pedestal. As the human got closer, it began to glow. I think this will show us what we're really dealing with, Alex said and placed both hands on the device. Light exploded through the vault. Not harmful, but so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. When their vision cleared, the chamber had transformed. What had looked like ancient historical records now revealed themselves as active monitoring stations. Displays showed real-time data from across the galaxy, and every single screen was flashing the same warning in red letters. Consuming dark activity detected. Warden activation required. Time to total incursion. Unknown. Alex stared at the displays with growing understanding. It's not coming, the human said quietly. It's already here. Alex woke up screaming. Not from nightmares, but from dreams that felt more real than reality itself. Visions of civilizations burning under starless skies. Worlds where the laws of physics had been eaten away until nothing made sense anymore. And always the same desperate voice calling across impossible distances. Light the flame. Guard the light. The medical bay's sensors went crazy as Alex sat up in the examination bed. Heart rate monitors showed impossible readings. Brain scans displayed patterns that the computers couldn't classify. Dr. Martinez, the Academy's chief medical officer, rushed over with concern written across her face. Easy, Alex. You're safe. You've been unconscious for 6 hours since we brought you up from the vault. She checked the readings on her tablet and frowned. Your body is showing energy signatures we've never recorded before. Alex looked around the medical bay with new eyes. Everything seemed sharper, more detailed. The doctor's white coat wasn't just white. It was 17 different shades of white that all had names Alex somehow knew. The air tasted of metal and fear and something else that didn't belong. Dr. Martinez, Alex said carefully. Please step away from Nurse Williams. The doctor looked confused. What? Why would I? She turned to look at her assistant, a friendly woman who had worked at the academy for 5 years. Williams smiled back with a perfectly normal expression. But Alex could see what others couldn't. Dark threads wrapped around Williams like invisible chains. Her shadow moved wrong, shifting in directions that had nothing to do with the room's lighting, and her eyes, when she wasn't looking directly at anyone, showed depths that went on forever. She's not herself anymore, Alex said, getting off the examination bed. Energy flowed through the human's body like electricity, but warmer and somehow alive. Something is wearing her like clothing. William's smile never changed, but her head tilted at an angle no human spine should allow. You shouldn't be able to see that yet, little Warden. Your flame is barely a spark. Dr. Martinez backed away from her assistant in shock. Williams? What's wrong with your voice? The thing wearing Williams' body laughed. The sound made instruments throughout the medical bay malfunction. Nothing wrong with my voice, doctor. Everything wrong with your ability to hear what I really am. Dark liquid began seeping from Williams's eyes. The consuming dark has been preparing for this moment for 3 million years. Did you think we would leave nothing in place? Alex felt heat building in their chest. Not uncomfortable heat, but the warmth of a campfire on a cold night. The feeling spread outward until their whole body felt like it was glowing from within. Let her go. She volunteered, the creature replied. 5 years ago, she started having dreams about serving a greater purpose. We simply accepted her offer. William's face began changing, features shifting into something that hurt to look at directly. How many others in this academy do you think have been having similar dreams? The medical bay's lights flickered. Alex realized the energy inside them was growing stronger, responding to the threat. Without knowing how, they raised one hand toward the possessed woman. Flame erupted from their palm. Not fire that burned, but light that revealed truth. The creature screamed as the flame touched it. The dark threads around Williams became visible to everyone, writhing like snakes caught in bright sunlight. The shadows that had been hiding in corners of the room fled toward the exits, suddenly exposed. "You cannot burn us all away, child," the creature hissed as it abandoned William's body. The nurse collapsed to the floor, unconscious but breathing normally. "We are in the walls, in the computers, in the people you trust. We have been preparing while you slept." Alex pushed more power into the flame. Light filled the entire medical bay, revealing dozens of dark shapes that had been hiding in plain sight. They writhed and fled through the walls like smoke, but not before everyone saw them clearly. Dr. Martinez helped Williams to a chair as the woman slowly regained consciousness. "How long has this been happening?" Martinez asked Alex. "I don't know, but I can see them now." Alex looked around the room with flame-enhanced vision. Small traces of darkness lingered in corners and crevices, like oil stains that couldn't be completely cleaned. They're everywhere. They've been watching and waiting. An alarm began sounding throughout the academy. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in red as Director Walsh's voice came over the communication system. "All personnel report to designated safe zones immediately. We have a security breach of unknown origin." Alex stood up, feeling more energy flowing through their body. The flame was growing stronger by the moment, fed by necessity and awakening instincts. "It's not a security breach. It's an invasion that's been going on for years." They walked to the medical bay's window and looked out at the academy grounds. What had seemed like a normal educational facility before now revealed itself as something else entirely. Alex could see the dark threads connecting buildings like a spider web. Energy patterns that spoke of ancient monitoring systems built into the academy's foundation. And in the distance, other lights beginning to flicker to life. "There are others," Alex said with sudden understanding. "Other humans." The scanner didn't just find one Warden. It found the first one in a group that's been hidden for generations. As if responding to the words, Alex's enhanced senses detected similar energy signatures from across the academy grounds. 3 other humans, all cadets who had been processed by the scanner in previous years, all of whom had received normal, unremarkable designations that kept them invisible. Dr. Martinez was scanning Nurse Williams, who was slowly coming back to full consciousness. She doesn't remember anything unusual. According to her, she's been doing her normal job for 5 years. "Because the thing controlling her was good at hiding," Alex replied. "But now that I can see it, I can find others." They turned to leave the medical bay. "I need to reach the other humans before these creatures realize their cover is blown." "Wait," Martinez called out. "You should stay here where it's safe. Let security handle this." Alex paused at the door. "Doctor, Academy security can't fight enemies they can't see. These things have been infiltrating for years, maybe decades. How many security officers do you think are really themselves anymore?" As if to answer the question, screams echoed from the corridor outside. Not screams of pain, but of terror as people saw things that shouldn't exist. The Academy's normal world was collapsing as the flame spread through the building like a revealing light, exposing hidden truths that had been carefully concealed. Alex stepped into the corridor and saw chaos. Students and faculty ran in all directions as shadow creatures fled from the spreading light. But worse than the fleeing darkness were the people who stood perfectly still in the middle of the panic, watching Alex with eyes that reflected depths of space. "So many," Alex whispered, seeing clearly for the first time how deeply the Academy had been compromised. At least one person in every group was infected by the consuming dark. They had been placed perfectly to observe, influence, and control. The flame around Alex burned brighter in response to the threat. Heat waves distorted the air as the humans' power continued awakening. Each step down the corridor revealed more hidden enemies and burned away more concealing shadows. In the distance, Director Walsh's voice came over the communication system again, but this time her words were wrong. Instead of evacuation instructions, she began speaking in a language that predated human civilization. A language that made reality bend around the sounds. Alex broke into a run toward the administration building. The director was either compromised or in immediate danger. Either way, the academy was falling apart as its carefully maintained illusions crumbled. The flame that burned within the human would either save them all or consume everything in the attempt. Behind Alex, the medical bay's lights exploded in showers of sparks as too much power flowed through systems designed for normal electrical loads. The awakening had begun, and there was no way to control where it would lead. The administration building looked normal from the outside, but Alex could see through illusions now. Dark energy pulsed through the walls like infected blood vessels. Windows that should have shown offices instead revealed glimpses of vast empty spaces filled with hungry shadows. The building wasn't just compromised, it had become something else entirely. Alex climbed the stairs toward Director Walsh's office, leaving footprints of flame on each step. The flame inside them had grown strong enough to burn away deceptions without conscious effort. Each floor revealed more truth. Maintenance tunnels that connected to chambers far older than the academy. Computer systems that were monitoring more than student progress. And people whose shadows moved independently of their bodies. "Director Walsh?" Alex called out, reaching the top floor. The corridor stretched longer than it should have, with doors that led to rooms that couldn't exist in normal space. "I know you can hear me." A door opened halfway down the hall. Director Walsh stepped out, but she was wrong in ways that made Alex's eyes water. Her face kept shifting between familiar features and something that belonged in the spaces between stars. When she spoke, multiple voices came from her throat. "You should not have awakened so quickly, Warden," the voices said. "We had plans for you. Gentle plans that would have made the transition easier." Walsh's body walked toward Alex with movements that ignored gravity. "Now we must accelerate our schedule." "What schedule?" Alex raised their hand, ready to release the flame if necessary. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the day this academy opened," Walsh replied. "Since the day we realized the scanning device couldn't be destroyed or moved. We had to work around it instead." Her form flickered between human and something made of living void. Every human who showed potential was quietly transferred to other programs, given normal titles, kept away from their true purpose. Alex felt pieces clicking together. The other humans here, they're all potential wardens. Were, Walsh corrected. Most of them anyway. "We've been very careful to limit their exposure to awakening triggers. Until you forced our hand." She gestured toward the windows. "Look outside, little flame. See what your awakening has cost." Through the distorted windows, Alex could see the academy grounds in chaos. But it wasn't the chaos they had expected. Students and faculty weren't running from shadow creatures anymore. They were standing in perfect formations, facing the administration building with expressions of absolute calm. "They're all infected," Alex breathed. "Not infected. Recruited." Walsh smiled with too many teeth. "Did you think the consuming dark was evil? We offer purpose to meaningless lives, direction to those who drift without goals. We are salvation from the terrible burden of individual choice." The building shook as something massive moved beneath it. Through the flame's enhanced perception, Alex could see the true scope of what had been hidden. The academy sat on top of a vast structure that extended deep into the planet's core. Not a building, but a machine designed to harvest and process something that looked like concentrated despair. "What is that thing?" Alex demanded. "A conversion facility," Walsh explained proudly. "Every negative emotion, every moment of doubt or fear or hopelessness from the academy's students for the past century has been collected and refined. The product powers our expansion into this galaxy." Alex felt sick. "You've been feeding on the students. We've been helping them transcend their limitations, remove fear, doubt, and personal ambition, and what remains is perfect unity of purpose." Walsh's form solidified into something that might have once been human, but had been changed by exposure to the void. "You could join us willingly. Your flame would burn so much brighter in service to the dark." "Never." Alex let the flame expand outward, filling the corridor with light that revealed every hidden shadow and concealed truth. "Where are the other humans?" Walsh screamed as the light touched her, not in pain but in rage that her carefully maintained deceptions were being burned away. "They are beyond your reach now, Warden. We accelerated their conversion when you began awakening. By now they are one with the dark, their potential safely contained." Alex ran toward Walsh, flames streaming from their hands. But instead of fighting, the director's body dissolved into shadow and flowed away through cracks in the walls. Her voice continued, speaking from everywhere at once. "You cannot burn away what we have built here. 3 million years of preparation cannot be undone by one awakened human." The building began changing around Alex, walls shifting and floors rotating. "Even now, our signal is spreading to academy facilities across the galaxy. Every potential warden will be converted before they can awaken." Alex followed the retreating shadows toward what had been Walsh's office. The door opened to reveal a chamber that extended far beyond the building's physical dimensions. Banks of monitoring equipment showed Academy facilities on hundreds of worlds. At each location, similar conversion processes were underway. But something was wrong with the displays. Several of them were flickering or showing static. As Alex watched, more screens went dark or began showing flames instead of the expected shadow imagery. "Your network is failing," Alex observed. "The awakening isn't just happening here." The shadows in the chamber writhed with frustration. "Impossible. We have contained every potential warden for millennia." Alex approached the monitoring equipment, letting the flame extend into the systems. As it touched each screen, the view changed to show what was really happening at those distant academies. Humans with flames in their eyes, shadow creatures fleeing from revealed truth, and in several cases other wardens who had broken free of their conditioning and were fighting back. "You missed something," Alex said, understanding flooding through them. "The flame doesn't just awaken one person at a time. It calls to others. Every warden who awakens makes it easier for others to follow." The chamber filled with the sound of something vast and angry stirring in the depths below. The conversion machinery was changing its purpose, no longer processing harvested despair but instead generating pure hatred, focused on the awakened wardens. "If we cannot convert you," the voice of Walsh said from all directions, "we will destroy you and begin again. The galaxy has forgotten the old wars. They will not resist when we return in force." Alex placed both hands on the central control system and poured the flame into it. Light flowed through circuits designed to carry darkness, revealing the true extent of the conspiracy. Academy facilities were just the visible part. Below each one lay machinery for converting entire populations. Conversion ships hidden in deep space, shadow-possessed individuals in positions of power throughout galactic government. But as the flame spread through the network, it carried more than just revealing light. It carried a signal that reached across impossible distances to every human with the potential to become a warden. A signal that said, "Wake up. Remember who you are. The time for hiding is over." Across the galaxy, humans who had lived quiet, unremarkable lives suddenly felt flames igniting in their souls. Shadows that had hidden in the corners of their perception fled into the light, and the carefully maintained network of control that had kept them docile for generations began burning away like fog before the dawn. The building around Alex began collapsing as the machinery below overloaded and failed. But the human felt no fear, only a sense of completion. The conspiracy was revealed. The signal had been sent. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would face its ancient enemy with eyes wide open and flames burning bright. Outside, the infected students and faculty stood motionless as their controllers lost connection. For the first time in years, they began thinking their own thoughts and making their own choices. Not all of them would choose to fight, but at least now they had the choice to make. The ancient battlefields scattered across the galaxy held secrets that living memory had forgotten. Alex drifted through the wreckage of a war that had ended 3 million years ago, watching ghost lights flicker between twisted metal and crystallized bone. These weren't normal ruins. They existed in multiple dimensions at once, showing echoes of battles that had been fought in the spaces between realities. Beth floated nearby, her newly awakened flames casting strange shadows that moved in directions gravity couldn't explain. "This place feels wrong," she said, her voice carrying further than sound should travel in vacuum. "Like the laws of physics are suggestions instead of rules." "That's because they are," Alex replied, letting their enhanced senses explore the battlefield's impossible geometry. "Wardens don't just fight enemies. We fight for the right of reality to exist as it chooses. When the battle is desperate enough, we have to let go of the limitations that keep most beings safe." Around them, the debris told stories of a cosmic war unlike anything the current galaxy had ever imagined. Weapons that fired frozen time instead of energy beams. Armor made from crystallized hope that still glowed with fading light. And everywhere, traces of the flame that had burned in patterns too complex for normal minds to follow. Alex approached what looked like a command center built into an asteroid. As they got closer, the structure began responding to their presence. Ancient displays activated, showing tactical information in languages that bypassed the eyes and spoke directly to understanding. Battle plans for fighting enemies that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, training programs for warriors who had to abandon everything familiar about existence. The last wardens knew they were losing, Alex realized, reading information that hurt to comprehend fully. They left this as a message for whoever came after them. The displays showed the progression of the ancient war. At first, the wardens had tried to fight the consuming dark using conventional methods, ships, weapons, and tactics that worked within normal reality. They had been systematically overwhelmed by an enemy that could simply change the rules whenever it was losing. So they learned to fight beyond law, Beth said, understanding flooding through her as she touched one of the ancient control panels. They gave up being human or whatever they had been originally, and became something that could exist anywhere the fight required. New information flowed through the displays, training methods that taught beings how to maintain their core purpose while letting everything else become fluid. Techniques for traveling through realities where mathematics worked differently and time flowed backward. And most importantly, ways to kindle the flame bright enough to burn through the fundamental forces that held the universe together. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of space. They didn't just become something beyond law. They became something that couldn't return to law. Look at the final entries. The displays showed the last recorded messages from Warden commanders. Their words were still recognizable as communication, but the beings who had spoken them were no longer anything that could exist alongside normal civilization. They had become living embodiments of pure purpose, too abstract to maintain individual identity, too powerful to interact safely with the worlds they protected. They saved the galaxy by becoming something the galaxy couldn't accept, Beth whispered, and then they had to leave because their mere presence was changing reality around them. A new voice joined their conversation. Not heard through speakers or telepathy, but felt as a vibration in the fabric of space itself. Not left young wardens waiting. The battlefield around them shifted, revealing structures that had been hidden in the spaces between dimensions. Ancient wardens, or what they had become, existed here still. They had transcended individual form so completely that they appeared as geometric patterns made of living purpose, too alien to communicate with directly, but still maintaining enough of their original nature to teach. The enemy returns, the presence continued, its communication causing nearby asteroids to ring like bells. The consuming dark adapts to each defeat, learning new ways to devour meaning itself. What worked 3 million years ago will not work now. Alex felt the weight of generations of responsibility settling on their shoulders. Then we have to find a new way to fight. Something the dark hasn't seen before. Indeed, but the price remains the same. The ancient presence showed them visions of what lay ahead. Battles in realities where cause and effect were suggestions. Enemies that attacked by making their targets forget why they had ever wanted to exist. And always, the choice between remaining human enough to understand what they were protecting, or becoming abstract enough to protect it effectively. There has to be another option, Beth said firmly. The old wardens fought alone, but we're not alone. Every human who awakened to the flame is connected. Maybe we can share the burden instead of one person carrying it all. The ancient presence flickered with what might have been surprise. Interesting. Previous wardens were individual champions. You speak of becoming something collective while maintaining individual choice. Alex felt the idea taking shape in their mind. A network instead of isolated guardians. Each person maintaining their humanity while contributing to something larger. They looked around at the ruins of the ancient war. The old way led to victory at the cost of everything the wardens were trying to protect. Maybe it's time for a new way. The training began immediately, not just learning to fight beyond law, but learning to maintain connections to normal reality while operating in impossible spaces. The ancient wardens shared techniques that had never been tried before, methods for staying human while wielding power that could reshape the foundations of existence. Alex learned to step sideways out of normal space-time, while keeping one foot anchored in the familiar world. Beth mastered the art of burning away illusions without burning away the truths that gave life meaning. Together they practiced fighting as a connected unit that could support each other across any distance or dimensional barrier. But the most important lesson came when they realized that being beyond law didn't mean ignoring all rules. It meant choosing which rules to follow based on what needed to be protected, rather than what was convenient or familiar. We're not abandoning our humanity, Alex said during a rest period between training sessions. We're expanding it to include spaces where humanity has never existed before. The ancient presence expressed approval through harmonics that made the nearby stars flicker. Perhaps this generation will succeed where ours failed, not by becoming something other than what you protect, but by becoming what protection itself looks like when it refuses to abandon its origins. Word came from across the galaxy that the consuming dark was making its final move. Not the subtle infiltration they had used before, but a direct assault on the concept of meaning itself. Reality was starting to fray at the edges as fundamental principles like cause and effect began to dissolve. Alex and Beth prepared to leave the ancient battlefield, carrying with them knowledge that had been purchased with the sacrifice of entire civilizations. They were still human, but human in a way that included the possibility of being anything that humanity needed them to become. The final battle would test everything they had learned about staying connected to their origins while fighting for principles that existed beyond any single species or civilization. They would either find a new way to be wardens, or join the ancient guardians in the spaces between realities where purpose was all that remained of who they had once been. The final battle didn't happen where anyone expected it, not on planets or in space stations, but in the realm between thoughts where meaning itself was born. Alex stood at the edge of reality, looking into a void that hungered for everything that had ever mattered to anyone. The consuming dark had grown tired of subtle infiltration. Across the galaxy, shadow ships emerged from hiding places in folded space. They didn't attack with weapons. They attacked with questions that made people doubt their own existence. Why struggle? Why hope? Why continue when oblivion offered such perfect peace? Entire star systems simply stopped. Not destroyed, but drained of the will to continue existing. Planets where billions of beings sat motionless, no longer remembering why anything had seemed important. The dark wasn't conquering the galaxy. It was convincing the galaxy to surrender itself. Alex felt the weight of every silent world. The flame burned brighter in response, but even infinite fire seemed small against infinite hunger. Beside them, Beth and the other awakened wardens prepared for a battle they barely understood. "How do you fight something that attacks the reason for fighting?" Beth asked, flames flickering uncertainly around her hands. "You remember why the fight matters?" Alex replied. But their own certainty was being tested. Every moment of contact with the consuming dark brought whispers of how easy it would be to just stop. To let the burden of being a warden pass to someone else. To accept that some wars could never be won. In the space between stars, a familiar voice called out across impossible distances. It was the fallen warden from their earlier encounter, but now she sounded different. Not converted, but not fully free either. "We have found the source," she said, her words carrying coordinates that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously. The heart of the consuming dark, the place where it first learned to eat meaning itself. A pause filled with static and pain. "We cannot approach it, but you might be able to." Alex shared the coordinates with the other wardens. The location was beyond the edge of mapped space, in a region where the galaxy's spiral arms trailed off into empty void. But more than physically distant, it existed in a state of reality that normal matter couldn't enter. "We'll have to go beyond law entirely," Alex realized. "Not just bending the rules, but existing where rules have no meaning at all." Beth nodded, though her flames showed her fear clearly. "The others can hold the line here. Keep the dark from advancing while we try to reach its source." She looked at Alex with trust that felt like another burden. "You know what this means, don't you? If we go that far beyond normal reality, we might not be able to come back." Alex had been avoiding that knowledge, but could no longer ignore it. True wardens didn't just protect civilization. They sometimes had to leave it behind entirely. The price of fighting in the spaces beyond law was becoming something that could never fully exist within law again. "The choice is simple," Alex said, though it was anything but simple. "Let the galaxy lose all meaning, or accept that some of us have to go where meaning is created." They gathered the other awakened wardens around them. Humans from dozens of worlds, all carrying flames that burned with slightly different colors but the same essential purpose. Some were fighters, some were healers, some were builders. All of them had given up normal lives to stand guard against the impossible. "We're going to the source," Alex announced. "Anyone who wants to stay and defend the galaxy from this side, I understand completely. This mission might be one way." To Alex's surprise, every single warden stepped forward. Even the newest ones, who had awakened just days ago, chose to follow their path into the unknown, rather than remain safe in familiar reality. The journey beyond the galaxy's edge required traveling through layers of existence that most beings never suspected. First through normal space, then through the quantum foam where possibility became actuality, then through the realm of pure information where thoughts had weight and intentions became forces of nature. At each layer, some of the wardens had to stop and turn back, not from cowardice, but because their flames weren't yet strong enough to maintain coherence in increasingly abstract realities. By the time they reached the final barrier, only Alex and Beth remained. Beyond the barrier lay something that hurt to perceive even with Warden senses. Not darkness in the absence of light, but darkness in the absence of any reason for light to exist. A wound in reality where the concept of meaning had been surgically removed, leaving only hunger for what it had lost. "This is where it started," Beth whispered, her voice barely maintaining coherence in the non-space around them. "Something happened here that taught the universe how to forget itself." Alex extended the flame toward the wound and immediately understood the truth. The consuming dark wasn't an invader from outside reality. It was a scar left by a previous civilization that had tried to eliminate all suffering by eliminating all meaning. They had succeeded so completely that they had created a void that could never be filled, only expanded. They were trying to help, Alex realized. They saw that meaning brought pain, so they tried to remove meaning entirely. But meaning is what holds reality together. Without it, existence becomes a wound that tries to heal itself by consuming everything around it. The flame around Alex began to change. Instead of burning away deceptions, it began burning with pure meaning itself. Not the meaning of any particular thing, but the principle that things could have meaning at all. The void recoiled from this light like a living thing avoiding pain. Beth added her flame to Alex's. Then, impossibly, other flames joined them from across the galaxy. Every awakened warden, no matter how far away, was contributing their fire to this moment. Even the fallen wardens were fighting free of their conversion and adding their own light to the growing beacon. The consuming dark fought back with everything it had accumulated over millions of years. Weapons made of crystallized despair, armies of beings who had forgotten why they had ever wanted to exist, reality storms that rewrote the laws of physics to make hope impossible. But against the combined flame of every human who had ever chosen to protect meaning itself, the dark found itself facing something it had never encountered before. Not a force trying to destroy it, but a light trying to heal the wound that had created it. Alex felt themselves changing as the flame grew beyond any individual capacity to contain it. They were becoming something more than human, more than individual, more than anything that could exist safely within normal reality. A living embodiment of the principle that existence was worth protecting, regardless of the cost. The wound in reality began to close as meaning flowed back into the void. Not forced healing, but voluntary acceptance that even suffering was preferable to the complete absence of experience. The consuming dark didn't disappear. It transformed into something that could create rather than only devour. When the battle ended, Alex found themselves floating in normal space near the galaxy's edge. Beth was there, changed but still recognizably herself. Around them, the other wardens were returning from wherever the final confrontation had taken them. All of them were different now, marked by contact with forces that existed beyond the boundaries of ordinary existence. "Is it over?" Beth asked. Alex looked back toward the galactic core, where billions of worlds were slowly remembering why they had wanted to keep existing in the first place. The immediate crisis was resolved, but the underlying responsibility remained. "This crisis is over," Alex said, "but there will be others. Reality is always under threat from forces that want to change its fundamental nature. The galaxy will need wardens as long as there are things worth protecting." They established a new academy on the edge of known space, not to hide potential wardens, but to train them openly for the responsibilities they would have to carry. Alex took the role of first instructor, teaching others how to find the balance between existing within civilization and being ready to go beyond it when necessary. The galaxy remembered the old threats and prepared for the new ones. Humanity had found its place not as conquerors or explorers, but as guardians of the principle that made all other achievements possible. They were the wardens of the flame, protectors of meaning itself, forever standing watch in the spaces between what is and what could be. And when new threats emerged from the depths of space or the corners of possibility, they would be ready, The flame would never be extinguished as long as there were those willing to carry it forward into whatever darkness might come.